I believe the Baltimore Ravens just made one of the worst decisions in NFL history. The Ravens just signed Odell Beckham Jr. to a $18 million 1-year contract. Now, obviously, this deal was a surprise to everyone. Why would the Ravens give OBJ so much money when Lamar Jackson has been crying about wanting a ton of money forever? Like, how long has that been going on for? Years now. Well, Ravens owner Steve Bisciotti actually played a big part in recruiting Beckham Jr. to the Ravens and believes that by signing Beckham Jr. to a 1-year, $18 million contract, that will somehow bring Lamar Jackson into agreeing to a deal with the Ravens. And there's also other reports that Lamar Jackson played a role in recruiting Beckham Jr. and that the whole idea is that by signing Beckham Jr., Lamar Jackson will sign with the Ravens. But to me, it doesn't make sense. How does signing OBJ make Lamar Jackson want to come back? The only thing I can think of is that Lamar Jackson will have someone to hang out with when they're both on IR next season. But enough about Lamar for now. First, let me explain to you why the Ravens signing Odell Beckham Jr. for $18 million for one season is one of the worst moves in NFL history. First off, OBJ is going to be 31 years old this fall, and usually the prime for NFL wide receivers is 26 to 30 years old, so judging by that, OBJ's at the end of his prime. This isn't a for sure fact as different players peak at different times in their career, but it definitely doesn't help the argument for signing OBJ. Next up, OBJ's yards a season have consistently been going down since his first 2 years in the league, and I know part of that reason is due to injury, but that's part of the problem. This is the list of all of OBJ's injuries. You can make a 10-minute video just talking about Odell's injuries alone. And most notably, in the past 2.5 years, he's tore his ACL twice. The Ravens are paying $18 million on a 1-year contract for a wide receiver in the past 3 years, has under 900 receiving yards, and has tore his ACL twice. You can't tell me that doesn't sound terrible. I would be shocked if OBJ doesn't miss at least 1 or 2 games due to injury next season, if not way more. With the Ravens signing a 30-year-old wide receiver who appears to be a bit out of his prime for a good amount of cash, let's look at similar experiences from the past in the league and see how they worked out. And a really good example of an older wide receiver signing with a team for a lot of money who appears to be coming out of their prime is when DeAndre Hopkins signed with the Arizona Cardinals. Hopkins was in Houston for 7 years and put up 7 stellar seasons. He then signed to a season with Arizona, and just before the season was getting on their way, early September, Hopkins agreed to a 2-year, $54.5 million contract extension. Hopkins would still put up a solid first season with the Cardinals, but the 2 years after which he was extended have not lived up to the expectations, in which makes the situation of Hopkins signing to the Cardinals even more identical to OBJ signing to the Ravens. Is Hopkins also signed to a team with a rushing quarterback, Kyler Murray, and we all know that rushing quarterbacks aren't always going to put up the highest amount of passing numbers and also are far more injury prone than pocket passers. And also, Hopkins didn't show any signs of decreasing numbers before the Cardinals signed him. The Cardinals obviously didn't know that Hopkins was going to kind of fall off and start having to deal with a lot of injuries and miss a lot of games and not put up the same amount of production, but it's a known fact that for any position, that player is not going to be in their prime forever. In the last 2 seasons, Hopkins has only played 19 games and has under 1,300 receiving yards as he's dealing with tons of injuries. Hopkins and OBJ are both 30 years old, and my point is that Hopkins just kind of eventually fell out of his prime. The last 2 seasons his production has gone down and he started to deal with a lot of injuries. But the thing is, before the Cardinals extended Hopkins to a 2-year $54 million contract, he didn't have any severe injuries besides a few foot issues, but nothing like 2 torn ACLs. And Hopkins before showed no signs of a depleting production, but when you look at OBJ, his production has been continuously decreasing. He has 2 extremely severe injuries on his record, and he hasn't played in over a year. I just don't know how anyone would sign OBJ to an $18 million one-year contract. And the $18 million, or the price of OBJ, isn't really the main thing I disagree with. I honestly wouldn't want OBJ on my team no matter what. 2 torn ACLs in 3 years and hasn't played in over a year? Maybe that's a bit dramatic. Maybe I'd want OBJ on my team for a low price, but just $18 million for one season. The Ravens could do so much with that money. Another example, this time a wide receiver with an injury history signing a big contract and not living up to it, Sammy Watkins, when he signed a $48 million deal with the Kansas City Chiefs. He had a few solid seasons with Buffalo, a decent season with the Rams, signed with the Chiefs, and never played a full season. Injuries aren't something just to be ignored. Sammy Watkins suffered tons more injuries after signing with the Chiefs, and the Chiefs honestly should have saw it coming. It's a huge reason why I made the video Lamar Jackson shouldn't sign with the Lions. He was available, reports came out that he requested a trade, and Lions fans were saying, we got to bring Lamar Jackson, and I think that's just a terrible decision, as Lamar Jackson's injury prone, and rushing quarterbacks are far more likely to get injured than pocket passers. Now, that's just one of the reasons I didn't want Lamar Jackson to come to Detroit, but that's a big reason why Lamar Jackson hasn't been getting the money he wants. The Ravens don't want to pay Lamar Jackson a ton of guaranteed money, because what if he gets hurt? Look at Kyler Murray, another rushing quarterback, goes down with a torn ACL, out for the season. And my question is, if Lamar Jackson doesn't sign with the Ravens this season, where is he gonna go? Which teams have been showing interest in Lamar Jackson? Have really any? I think I read maybe the Colts were at one point, but that's about it. And it doesn't help that Lamar Jackson wants a ton of money. No one's gonna want to pay him. Obviously, I don't think the Ravens should have signed OBJ for that price, but at this point, I think the Ravens should just say, fuck Lamar Jackson. Tyler Huntley was one fumble away from taking down the Bengals in Cincinnati. Huntley put up over 200 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. He did have 1 interception, but against the Bengals defense, that's amazing. And I've talked about it before, but the play call for Huntley to try to jump over the line of scrimmage was terrible. That's a play design for Lamar Jackson to do an athletic leap over the line of scrimmage. It was a terrible play call. The Ravens should have beat the Bengals last season in the wildcard round. I would almost rather have Tyler Huntley for the whole season rather than have Lamar Jackson for half the season and continue with him bitching about not getting enough money. Another thing I don't understand is by signing OBJ, you can already see all the future complaints. Lamar Jackson shouldn't have scrambled. He should have stayed in the pocket and thrown to OBJ. Why is OBJ not getting enough targets? The Baltimore Ravens have Odell Beckham Jr, an insane wide receiver. Why are they not utilizing him more? I guess I'm just predicting or calling it that a ton of people are going to complain about that. Additionally, why hasn't Lamar Jackson signed with the Ravens yet? As I said earlier, who else wants Lamar Jackson? Who else is going to sign Lamar Jackson? Every team that needs a quarterback has made their move in the draft order to secure their future of their team. There's also rumors that have gone out that OBJ has a clear understanding that Lamar Jackson would be the Ravens quarterback. Whether the reports are true or not, what was said, if Lamar's going to come back, whatever. I don't see any way Lamar Jackson doesn't re-sign with the Ravens. Where would he go? And if he somehow doesn't re-sign with the Ravens, and if he just quits, retires, or signs somewhere else, it would be the funniest thing ever. In the end, even though it makes no sense having OBJ sign with the Ravens makes Lamar re-sign with the Ravens, I think it's true. Lamar Jackson celebrated on Instagram, showing a FaceTime with OBJ when OBJ signed with the Ravens. They both seem to be friends. It seems like Lamar Jackson forced the Ravens to get his friend a bag. I just don't understand, I guess. To recap, I really hope I don't have to eat my words, but I truly don't think I will. I think this is a terrible idea that the Ravens signed OBJ for $18 million. I don't think there is any way this situation comes out where OBJ is putting the production up that's worth $18 million for one season. I think it'd be a miracle if OBJ somehow had a great season. I think it would truly be a miracle. I've also seen a lot of posts of Ravens fans being frustrated that other teams, communities, or just people in general are bad-mouthing this signing of OBJ. And I think it's funny that Ravens fans are mad at people not agreeing with this deal. It's not a good deal. The Ravens ranked 20th in points per game allowed last season. They could have improved their defense. They could have brought in a stronger offensive line. Maybe that would have made Lamar Jackson want to come back more. There's so much they could have done with that money. I understand having hope though. I hope Beckham Jr. I hope he displays some talent. I hope he's not washed up, because it'd be fun. It'd be entertaining to see OBJ go back to his prime self. But the chances of that, I think, are extremely slim. And I think the chances of OBJ and Lamar Jackson staying healthy throughout the whole season are also extremely slim. Anyway, that's going to be the end of this video. If you guys enjoy my content, I would really appreciate if you could like and subscribe. It really helps me out a lot. And once again, thanks for watching.